Nick Bonito versus Andrew Thomas. It's the heavyweight fight in the trenches that we're not going to want to miss. Jaxson Dart gets his biggest test of his young career against the Broncos defense. And who's going to step it up at wide receiver this week? It's week 7, and this is Blue Rush. Flights booked to the Mile High City. The Giants are 2-4, and they're coming off the mini bye, and they got themselves a chance to head to Denver to keep the momentum going off the Eagles win. What's up, everybody? What's up, Big Blue? B. London here, as well as our longtime beat writer for the Post, Paul Schwartz, with our Week 7 Blue Rush preview show for the New York Post. Paul, I went into the locker room. Vibes are high. I got a chance to catch up with Kayvon Thibodeaux and Lil'Jordan Humphrey. But before all that, let's get straight into this game, my friend. We've got this whole Jaxson Dart, Cam Scatterboo hype. Can they keep the vibes going into to Denver against a nasty defense, Paul? That's what I call them. That's the adjective, nasty.
Yeah, look, the vibes have to survive altitude, right? You know, the good Giants vibes survive the highest altitude they will play at this season. Yeah, you know what? It's about handling some success and some prosperity. And 7 weeks into the season, Brandon, this is not the stuff we're accustomed to talking about, right?
Yep.
Handling success, handling prosperity, handling good vibes, handling people saying nice things about you, about the team, about the quarterback, about the coach, about the defense. Dexter Lawrence, after the loss to the Saints in New Orleans, he and Brian Burns addressed the team. And one of the things I talked to Greg Van Roten, the veteran offensive lineman, and he told me that Dex told us, look, it's about handling success. It's about, we beat the Chargers. We did not handle that success the right way. We played okay at times in New Orleans, but we turned the ball over 5 times. That we did not handle our business. Okay, so then they come out after that and they play a terrific game on both sides of the ball against the Eagles. They had a bunch of time off. They had Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. They're back at work, obviously, this week for the Broncos. How are they going to handle this success? This is not about circling the wagons. Nobody believes in us. We're coming off another loss. Nobody thinks we can do it. Let's talk about the draft. Let's talk about guys getting fired. Let's talking about making a quarterback change. People are happy. People are happy about Jaxson Dart, about Cam Scatterboo, and about Brian Burns, and about the defense, about Cordell Flott taking an interception back and almost, having a pick 6. So about finally beating the hated Eagles. So
Yeah.
this is a new dynamic for the Giants. It'll be very interesting on Sunday in Denver. Very hard place to play to see, can they back it up? What do all you guys always talk about, Brandon? Stack it.
Yep.
Stack a good practice, stack a good week, stack a good game, stack a good 2 games, stack a good month. Let's see how good the Giants. It's like Lego, right? You like Lego when you were a kid?
I love
Your
Lego
son,
when I was a kid.
your son like Lego, right? It's
He
a
loves
great,
it. He loves it.
great. Long as they don't eat it, right? Here's 2 things about Lego. Don't let the kid eat it. And if your kid doesn't clean up and you're walking around barefoot, you're going to step on, right? You've done that, right?
Absolutely.
You
Absolutely.
stepped on it seems like every piece of Lego is incredibly pointy and sharp. You step on that Lego late at night, you got to resist saying something that's going to wake everybody up, right?
Uh,
Stack it. Let's see how the Giants are good at Lego stacking.
Stack those W's, or you can bring Jameis Winston out again and you can eat the W's. Either way, it should be. And if you're going to give yourself an opportunity to win 2 in a row, it has to be the Giants versus the Broncos and the altitude, not the Giants versus the Giants and the Broncos and the altitude. And to stack success, or to keep the success, they've got to handle that Broncos blitz. And I feel as though the Eagles game was a PSAT for the SATs, the Denver Broncos, because the Eagles tried to blitz Jaxson Dart, but he was getting the football out of his hands. So when I looked at the tape, it shows you that he understands his hots and his side adjustments. On the flip side of that, the offensive line kind of held up as well. And there was a couple throws where he stayed in the pocket, Probably a little bit longer. I mean, a little bit shorter than a Russell Wilson or a Justin Fields, and he was able to make some throws. So this kid continues to impress us, and I'm glad we're talking about. If we're talking about quarterbacks, Week 7, Paul, we're talking about a Giants quarterback that's looking good. Not talking about a senior or junior quarterback that we think they're going to draft to replace this quarterback. But going up against this Broncos defense and the blitz rate, second highest blitz rate in the NFL at 34.2%. They blitzed Justin Fields at 58.6% this previous game out in London and sacked him 9 times. I think me and Ryan Dunleavy, our colleague, think that Jaxson Dart is better than Justin Fields at this time of his career. But if the Giants want that success, they are going to have to protect the quarterback. He's going to have to protect himself. And I feel as though there can be plays made in those holes or in those gaps or those voids when Denver blitzes this guy.
Well, first of all, protect. Jaxson Dart's got to protect the football.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, look, there's going to be pressure on him. There's going to be a swarm. You mentioned the Broncos lead the league with 30 sacks. The next teams have 20. Okay. So how do you get 10 sacks more than the next team? Well, yeah, you do that is by sacking Justin Fields 9 times down and up, down, over. I guess over in London, right?
Yep.
Over in London. Yep. You sack him 9 times, and all of a sudden you go from a close lead in the team sack competition to 10 sacks, 30 sacks. They're on some kind of record-breaking pace, 4-2 record and 30 sacks. Do the math. It's going to be a hell of a lot of sacks if they keep this up. They probably won't keep it up because 9 sacks is an outrageous number. But the Giants need to know with a young quarterback, he needs to protect the ball. If you get sacked on 3rd and 5, it's not good. You have to punt. If you get sacked on 3rd and 5 and it's a strip sack and a fumble, it's the road to disaster, right? So that's number 1 for Jaxson Dart. Now, he's been pretty good at that. He dropped the ball once, right? In New Orleans. It was not it was just, he just dropped the ball. He's got to protect the ball. He's got to, secure it. He just was starting to run and he dropped it. You can't have any of that stuff. So that's number 1. And, what is Andrew Thomas up to now since he missed the first 2 games and only played 24 snaps in the 3rd game? What is he up to? About 3,720 snaps without a pressure? What is the number? 120?
It's somewhere up there, Paul, but this kid is the MVP. He's the most valuable player on this team. He may not be the best, but he's the most valuable player. I'm sorry to cut you off. Keep going.
No, he might be the best too, because it's the kind of position when you're a running back, when you're Jaxson Dart, when you're Brian Burns, the more we talk about you, the better, right? The more we mention you on TV, the more we write about you, the more we talk about you on Blue Rush podcast. With Andrew Thomas, nary a word, right? Yep. You can go the whole broadcast and don't hear him unless they want to focus on the guy. This week, we will hear Andrew Thomas. We will hear his name because if he locks up Nick Bonito, it will be, a masterclass. He leads the league with 8 sacks. If he doesn't, if he gives up a pressure, that's okay. If he gives up a sack, not great, but it's okay. It's all part of a day's work for a left tackle. So, this is why he got the big money. He's a remarkable player. He really is. He had some issues early in his career with technique and figuring it out. And since his only issue now is staying on the field, and thank goodness his foot, his recovery after Lisfranc foot surgery was a long rehab and a long process. Since he's come back, he's been an Iron Man. He takes every snap, and he just does his job, and you don't hear from him. And like any left tackle, you don't hear his name. It's great, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't talk about him and shouldn't write about him. But, there's more, right? John Franklin Myers, the former Jet, 3 sacks. Zach Allen, 2.5 sacks. Jonathan Cooper, 4.5 sacks. Linebacker, he was just named AFC Defensive Player of the Week the week after Bonito was named AFC Defensive Player of the Week. So this is up and down. Jermaine Illuminar, the guys inside. We'll see if John Michael Schmitz, he's still in concussion protocol as of Wednesday.
Yes, sir.
That's not a great sign considering They played, 6 days ago. They played Thursday night. We'll see if he gets cleared. Probably not in time. So you have to go with Schlottman again, probably. It's going to be a test. Runyon, Van Roten, it's a test for all of them. Keep your rookie quarterback as clean as possible, but knowing that there will be heat in the pocket, and Jaxson Dart's just going to have to deal with it.
The funny thing about it is how it's like opposites attract. On the left side, you've got a quiet Andrew Thomas in personality as well, but when he plays well, we don't hear about him. On the right side, Jermaine Illuminor, when he plays well, he does the podcast. He does the interviews in the locker room. So hopefully it's a little bit of if you're Jaxson Dart, you want a little bit of both. You want to see Jermaine Illuminor back on the Blue Rush podcast. You want to see him on the Kay Adams show because that means that his pressure rate was low. On the flip side, you want to be looking around. It's like, is Andrew Thomas even in the locker room because he's quiet, he's not saying anything, and we're not talking about him because he did his thing again at left tackle. Those are two guys that are going to have to play great, Paul. But obviously, the former wide receiver in me looks at this game, and it's who is going to step up on the perimeter. Which pass catcher is going to step up? Because you got Patrick Surtain, who is the best corner. He is the Revis of my day on one corner, locked up, man-to-man, hands-on, will travel if he needs to. Who is going to be that guy that steps up at wide receiver? If you're Jaxson Dart going into a game where you're going to get blitzed, you're hoping you can run the football, the run game can continue to go, but you're going to have to make a couple big boy throws to keep the chains moving or push the ball down the field. Do you have a guy on the perimeter that you 100% without a doubt am like, I'm throwing it up to that guy, he's going to make a play for me?
Well, no, I do not. Is Darius Slayton going to play? He was very limited on Wednesday with a hamstring. Yeah, as you know, receivers, hamstrings, it's usually not a 1 or 2 week thing. We'll see. He says he feels better. Maybe he'll be able to go. Maybe he won't. I would guess probably not. We'll see more later in the week. To me, it might be like the first Jaxson Dart start. It could be more of a tight end centric situation with Theo Johnson and Daniel Bellinger. If you think of it, if you think of Patrick Surtain, right, he matches up with the best wide receiver, right?
Yep.
So, every week there's a guy. If Malik Neighbors was healthy, we'd be writing about Malik Neighbors versus Patrick Surtain. That's a heavyweight matchup.
Yes, sir.
Patrick Surtain this week, it's almost like he looks at the Giants and says, who am I going to deal with here? I mean, am I going to go out with a, one-legged Darius Slayton? Am I going to go wide with Jalen Hyatt? Am I going to go wide with Lil'Jordan Humphrey? I don't think Patrick Surtain is going to, have a steady diet in the slot with Wan'Dale Robinson. But if he does, so, it's almost like the guy who he goes against, I don't want to, disrespect anybody, but it's not the caliber of the player he usually goes against. You know what I mean? Yep. It's not going to be like, man, I'm gearing up for Terry McLaurin. Man, I'm gearing up for CeeDee Lamb here. I gotta buckle up here. I'm gearing up for Malik Neighbors. He's gearing up for who? Who, right? And if he takes Darius Slayton out of the game or Lil'Jordan Humphrey or Jalen Hyatt out of the game, I mean, how much game do those guys have in them right now? So to me, I think it's Theo Johnson and Daniel Bellinger. Let's get the ball to those guys. Let's be creative. Let's throw some more screen passes. Take advantage of that Broncos aggressiveness and blitzing. They haven't done a lot of screen game, right? They did a lot in the summer. Scatterboo, Tracy. I think these guys, Wan'Dale, I think these guys can play the screen game. Maybe even Devin Singletary if you want. So I think they have to be very creative. I think Daboll and Mike Kafka have to be very creative. This is not a Giants offense round. You just line up and say, we're going to run the ball and throw play action. Because look, you know it, Brandon. There's going to be a game where Cam Scatterboo has 14 for 40. There's just going to be one of those games. That's not anything to discredit Cam Scatterboo. It's just the way the NFL works and the way defenses work, that they're going to look at this and say, they want to run the ball. Wan'Dale Robinson said that this week. We want to run the ball. We want to run the ball. So let's see if the Giants can run the ball. If they can't, they have to have a plan B.
And if I'm one of the wide receivers in that room, I'm ready to now step up. I put my hand up and be like, Coach, I am that plan B. But then at the same time, you got to sit down and be like, I'm going to step up, put my hand up, and go catch a rock. Coach, I am that plan A, plan B, because when what you just said right now, if I'm sitting back in the meeting room, got my sunflower seeds in, and Kafka's about to stand up, put the install in. If I see that we are heavy with routes and targeting the tight ends after hearing the noise about them needing to bring in another receiver because no one believes in the receivers in that room, yeah, you're going to catch that 10-yard catch. You're going to catch that little, the 15-yarder across the middle. But those ones that are the deep ones, the explosive plays, you have to have it to quiet the noise. Because if you don't, this is your last week of auditioning to see, like, okay, who could step up and be that guy? If no one steps up, has a catch over 25, 30 yards, if no one makes a big play, big catch and run, outside of Wan'Dale's he's locked in. But if you're the Jalen Hyatts and Lil'Jordan Humphrey and let's say Bo Collins, if he gets bumped up, if you don't make that play, that's it. When it comes to them going your way, they're bringing in other guys or they're going to start targeting the tight ends even more. So this is that week. And I saw today at practice, after practice, we're waiting for Jaxson Dart at the step and repeat to come up and talk to the beat. But he's all the way at the far end of the field, and he's throwing up 50-50 balls to the receivers. And they kind of had one of the guys would play as a defender, kind of grab on a guy so you could see Lil'Jordan Humphrey and those guys go up for a pass. That's what you got to come down with. And if you don't come down with that, then if you were bumped up on the practice squad, you might get pumped down on the practice squad because they're going to bring someone in that they feel as though can make that catch. Because I think they're going to look at it like we have to get Jaxson Dart some help on the perimeter. So the opportunity is there. And I got a chance to go into the locker room and speak with Lil'Jordan Humphrey because he's going back to Denver because he played with the Broncos. He talked about Patrick Surtain, what it's going to be like going up against him, the altitude, and, of course, making that play. And the Giants receiver room making that play. So let's check this conversation out real quick. All right, let's have some fun here. Brandon London in the locker room with Lil'Jordan Humphrey. It's a receiver thing on this one, so really let's have some fun with the people. Let the audience know that it's a receiver's world out there. I love to start these interviews off with asking guys what is a must-have in their locker. What you got to have it every day.
I gotta have my lotion. You know what I mean? Okay. Can't be walking around all ashy and stuff like that. Can't do it. But so keep your lotion on you. Yeah.
Stay moisturized, folks, especially when you go out to Denver and you got to play in that altitude. I lived there for 3 years. You played there. Obviously, what's it like going back? I guess this is for the first time.
Going back for the first time, it should be fun. You know, there's a lot of guys on the team that I know, got a good relationship with. I know Coach Payton very well, so I mean, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun always playing against guys you know what I mean?
When knowing Coach Payton and what his offense is like, is there anything you're kind of telling your DBs, telling the defense, kind of keep a heads up for when it comes to that offense?
I mean, yeah, definitely trying to get some tips, you know what I mean? But it's a new year, you know. Coach Payton, every coach likes to switch up the things they like to do, their tendencies. So I'll try to get some tips, but at the end of the day, we just got to go out there and ball.
All right. Speaking about going out there and ball, you had yourself a pretty solid game when you got called up from the practice squad. Seems like the chemistry is there with Jaxson Dart. You guys had a touchdown in Buffalo in the preseason. Like, what's that been like, one, personally, just kind of seeing his rise to being QB1 and making plays, and then two, like how comfortable are you two out there?
I mean, it's been awesome seeing Jaxson grow. You know, he's been balling since OTAs, and he just continued to make steps to improve as the years gone on. But it's been a lot of fun out there, being out there playing with him. I mean, all he tells me, he just tells me to go out there, let's go out there and play football, play our football, and I feel like that's what we go out there and do. And whatever he needs, I got his back on. So yeah.
So now you're in position to fight for targets, fight for balls. You want to be a guy that Jaxson goes to. Like, how do you continue that? Like, how do you kind of rise to be like, all right, I'm that guy or one of the guys for Jaxson?
Just got to go out there and continue to make plays. You know, I feel like as long as I go out there and do my job, the ball's gonna find me. You know, we got a group of guys who can go make plays any time. So I just got to make sure I'm doing my job. And so when it does come to me, I'm ready. So
you guys are very confident in that locker room that you guys have the guys in-house in that room that can lead this team on a run, make plays on the perimeter for that rookie quarterback. There's a lot of noise out there that the Giants could be going or trading for someone else. Like, what do you guys say to that? What's y'all's mindset to that?
I mean, there's gonna be a lot of noise, especially in New York. You know what I mean? There's gonna be a lot of noise, but at the end of the day, like, we know we got each other back and we know what's going on in here. So we just gonna keep working, keep our head down, and try to be the best we can be, and go out there and win games on Sunday.
Coming out of that Eagles game, when you guys broke the tape down as a receiver room, what are some good things you guys liked, and then what are some things y'all looking like, okay, we got to be better in this area?
I mean, like, we was physical on the perimeter. We made plays, but there's some things that we got to clean up, just like technique, you know, and just listening and being efficient as an offense. So we still got a lot of things to improve. We had a good game, but we got a lot of things to improve on.
Lastly, you're going up against PS2 again. It's a guy that you've known from being out there in Denver. Like, what's it like going up against a guy like that?
I mean, it's going to be amazing. I mean, he's the top corner in the NFL. So just to see where I'm at as a football player, going against him is going to be great. I mean, like I said, P2 is a great guy, great player. So it's going to be fun.
All right, man. Good luck on Sunday.
Thank you.
Gave a lot of credit to Patrick Surtain, as he should. But, Paul, I think he's a guy, and, you know, Jaxson Dart was sitting right next to us where we were talking about, oh, you guys had the chemistry from the spring to the summer to the preseason to now. So, obviously, you're going to hype up Jaxson Dart, him sitting right next to you. But I think the receiver room, they believe in this. They believe in the quarterback. And I think they look at it like, we understand our limitations, but we have a quarterback that can make us better, you know?
Well, you know what? There's all different thresholds with these first-year quarterbacks, right? And this one is, okay, if things are going well and he's running the ball and the Giants are running the ball, you know, can the offense function? Okay, what happens if they can't run the ball? Can our quarterback throw us out of this game? You know, can he? We may have to throw it 40 times. We may have to, you know, not be able to run the ball as much, and because they're taking it away. So that's the next thing. Can Jaxson Dart do that? Giants don't want to do that, but you know what? Tough luck. You have to do what you have to do. You know, you mentioned the receivers. I don't think it's all about just going up and catching 50-50 balls. It's also, are you going to block on the perimeter, right? Are we going to throw a screen? Are you going to block? Are you going to clear out your area so maybe Daniel Bellinger can get underneath and catch a 25-yard pass? You know, it's you know, they have to be a gritty bunch because, look, we're all going to be surprised if Lil'Jordan Humphrey or Wan'Dale Robinson or Darius Slayton, if he plays, or Jalen Hyatt has any big numbers. You know, Malik Neighbors is the big numbers guy, and he's not there. So make a catch when it's there. If there's a deep ball present for Jalen Hyatt, bang, you got to make it. You know, but I don't think the big numbers are going to be there. That's just the way it is with this offense right now, with this wide receiver room, and that's not really a knock on him. That's reality. And if one of those guys comes out with a game that, you know, a career game, God bless them. That would be great for the Giants, but I don't think they can bank on that.
Yeah, it's a fantasy to think that they're going to put up fantasy numbers, but at the end of the day, like, if that opportunity is there, who knows? You make that catch, defender falls, that could be that big play that you need. So it's going to be interesting because, again, that opportunity is right there for any of those guys. Who knows? Jalen Hyatt, you got to stay in it because if somebody goes down, you get thrown right back into it. So it's going to be interesting to watch how these guys, if they get gritty on the outside with the blocking and on the perimeter, which Lil'Jordan Humphrey mentioned that was something that they did well in the Eagles game. So you have to build off of that. But let's Riverside this, Paul, because I went over to Kayvon and I was talking to him about not only the season he's having, but how they have to be the best defense in this matchup. And Kayvon thinks that the defense is up for it. And London in the locker room with Kayvon Thibodeaux. All right, it's your Week 7, London in the locker room here with Kayvon Thibodeaux. Kayvon, we like to start these things off with a little, I like to ask you guys to bring our audience into the locker room. Show us something in your locker that is a absolute must-have.
Must-have for my locker, I would say gotta be, I'm gonna go to face washes.
Okay, face wash. Why is that?
You gotta have, your routine of cleanliness and, just everything, right? We wear pads, we're sweaty, we do the whole nine. So just being able to, after a good practice, make sure you get all the dirt, clean your pores, clean your face, and, you still want to look good on game day.
Okay, you got KT's Finger Licking Kitchen that you do on TikTok. Is next the face wash routine?
I may not do a face wash routine because I really am just a soap, water, and a little bit of toner. You know what I'm saying? I ain't going to give you everything.
Okay.
But I definitely, I like to give a little game about my routine and stuff, but I probably won't take it to TikTok.
All right, you keep the face clean, absolutely love it, but you've been getting absolutely dirty out there on the field. We saw you all throughout, social media in the offseason with the wrestling. Then you came in the spring. There was something, there was a fire lit in you. Going into Week 7, where do you feel like you are personally, before we get to talking about the team, where are you at personally 7 weeks into the season?
I feel like I'm still peaking. I still got well, really, you don't have time because the season's here, but I definitely think I'm still getting better. I still got room to grow, room to improve. I think things are going well, but they can go better. So you just got to keep working.
Are you seeing the wrestling pay off?
Definitely. I think, there are a few different moves that I've been able to execute. There are a few, just technique things that I've really been able to hone in on, on the field that have, kind of come to light.
All right. As a squad now, let's start with the defensive unit. You guys have been all over quarterbacks. You guys are kind of the backbone of this team. Going into a week like this against the Broncos where they're going to send pressure at your quarterback, how important is it for you guys to get pressure on Bo Nix?
Yeah, first we got to stop the run. Obviously they're top probably 15 or whatever in the league and just running offense. And I think, Bo Nix, fellow Oregon alumni, he's a great player, but definitely got to affect him and get him off the spot to, affect the game.
What do you think of your rookie quarterback and how he's handled his first 3 starts, career starts in the NFL?
I think it's been great, but you can't get ahead of yourself. We still got a lot of wood to chop, a lot of water to carry, and he's still young, so still got some maturing, still got some growth. But I'm super excited, super energized, and I think he's going to do well.
We talk about maintaining success in the NFL. You guys had the huge win against the Chargers, then you had the letdown against the Saints. You got the huge win against the Eagles. How do you make sure you sustain that momentum?
Day by day. I think, each day you have an opportunity to correct all of your kind of shortcomings. And if you do that and you do it the right way with, intention, with a little bit of fire, I think, you can do the right thing. So for us, just day at a time, working on our craft, getting better, and, take it out there and show it on the field.
Would you call this win a statement win if you guys go in there and handle business?
Man, in this league, every win is a statement win. So, every opponent is a nameless, faceless enemy, but every win that we can get, is a statement win.
All that wrestling he did in the offseason is working out. And, you could again, we always see this, Paul, like you've said it a million times, that contract year, guys are going to show up and show out. But I think that, again, there's something different about Kayvon Thibodeaux this year, without a doubt. And his teammates, the media, the fans, everyone realizes, okay, this is the guy that you drafted with the 5th pick in the draft.
I think he looks stronger. I just literally think he looks stronger, number one. He's a good run defender. And, this is what happens. Guys at his position often do not come out like gangbusters. Abdul Carter's playing terrific, but his statistics aren't crazy. Michael Strahan, Osi Umenyiora, Justin Tuck, we've been through it already. Matthias Kiwanuka, their numbers early in their career were not great. They had to learn the NFL ropes. You saw flashes, you saw glimpses. JPP was a little more physically advanced as a rookie and put up some better numbers, and then he exploded his second year. So, Kayvon was not that kind of explosive, disruptive OC, get off the ball. Bang. Where'd he go? Where'd he go? But he's a student. He's learning. And I just think he looks stronger. He just looks like a stronger person right now. He doesn't have the bend of an Abdul Carter. I don't think he has the suddenness of a Brian Burns. He's a good player. Maybe, getting to be a very good player. Very good against the run last week against the Eagles. Excellent. Ask Saquon Barkley how Kayvon Thibodeaux did last week. He did very well. He sets the edge, makes his tackles, reroutes guys inside so somebody else can make the tackle. And, I think their goal has to be this week. Look, Bo Nix, when you watch him, he's an impressive second-year guy, right? But don't you think, Brandon, you've seen Bo Nix play, don't you think there's a little bit of training wheels still with Sean Payton on him? I still don't think they're like, he can win the game for us. I don't think so. They want to run the ball with J.K. Dobbins. They, Nix is really good throwing on the run. Excellent. Really good. Probably better throwing on the run than he is just standing in the pocket. He played college football for 1,000,000 years. He had 1,000,000 games, tons of snaps. He was just, all different, different colleges and just was very, very experienced. And, some people looked at and said, he's older and, he doesn't have a great upside. Well, he's older, which means last year as a rookie, he was ready to play.
Yep.
But I don't think that Sean Payton says, Bo, you can win the game for us. I just don't think that's the way they play. And so that's what the Giants, I think, have to do is make this a Bo Nix game. Make him throw it 40 times. And let's see, because they have good players. They have good receivers. Troy Franklin, Mims, Cortland Sutton. They're good players. They're good, but they're not the best the Giants will see. And I just don't think they're built to throw it and throw it and throw it. So, you know what? The Giants, are not way up there in sacks. I think they're top 15 in sacks as a team. Brian Burns has the most. He's trailing Benito just by 1. Good for him. Maybe this is a game where the Giants pass rush is more like the Charger game and, wreak some havoc because these players keep on asking and insisting and imploring their defensive coordinator, Shane Bowen, trust us, trust us, trust us. Let us go. Let us be more aggressive. Maybe this is a game where they do that. And, I think there's a 6 or 7, 5, 6, 7 sack game in the Giants coming at some point. Not just Brian Burns. This would be a heck of a time for it. The Broncos, Matt Pert started last week at one of the guard spots. He's now on IR. They're going to have to play with another starting guard. Maybe there's some opportunities there.
And Kayvon mentioned Bo Nix and getting after him, and he said, first things first, we got to stop the run, put them in passing situations. And when you watch the tape on Bo Nix, you can tell that the intellect is there. Shout out to Davis Webb, former New York Giant. You can tell he's got Bo Nix prepared when it comes to knowing where to go with the football. But when you watch him, Paul, it's like he's a little gun shy. It's like he's a little afraid to just, bam, put his foot in the ground and make that throw. I could be wrong, but if you watch the Jets game, like he struggled against the Jets defense that was the worst in the NFL. You could say it's because of the flight over, short, whatever, the week, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, when you look at if you're on offense and you're playing against the Jets, it's a get-right game for you statistically, what you're thinking. But when it comes to, like, Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeaux, Abdul Carter, like, when you watch the tape and what they do, what Shane Bowen does with them with a lot of the stunts and a lot of the raps, it's like they take turns. It's like a receiver. It's like they're 3 receivers, and you can move them around. They're interchangeable on who gets the blitz and who gets the rush from where. And I think Brian Burns is one of the best in the game. And if he can put together some of those games where he gets some sack fumbles, maybe scores a touchdown, then you're up there for Defensive Player of the Year. But yeah, for a Kayvon Thibodeaux, I think he's putting it together. We're seeing him put it together. And because of that, because these guys are having this success, and I know Abdul doesn't have it statistically yet, but if you watch the tape, it's the same thing we said about Kayvon. He's almost there. He's almost there. He's still affecting the decision maker, the quarterback, but he's not getting the sack. You're seeing these guys' success help the back end. Cordell Flott jumping routes. I talked to him today. I was like, how did you know to jump that? And he talked, he said, I looked at the formation. I saw the receivers split, close split. I knew we were sending pressure, and I knew my guys were going to get there, and we're going to force him to throw the ball fast. He was like, pretty much like, what are you going to run from this close split? If you don't run any sort of shallow cross, bang eight post, it's some sort of out route, and he jumped that route. So when you say like they had the conversation with Shane Bowen and it's like, all right, listen to the players a little bit more. We saw that against the Eagles. Now, like we said, you've got to put it together again against a Denver Broncos team that's led by Sean Payton, and you have Bo Nix at quarterback. Paul, we've been going, so I'm going to pass it to you, Paul. Finish this off, man. What do you find out as we get ready, we get the oxygen ready for the Mile High? Final thought going into this game.
Well, I wrote in the post this week about the Giants are now an unpredictable team, and that's a good thing. You know, people don't like unpredictable. Whoa. What do you mean unpredictable? But in the past, the Giants were predictable. They would play, they would not play very well, and they would lose. So I think right now they're the kind of a team that you want to watch play, not just us because that's our job. I think the league, look, they haven't put the league on notice. They're 2-4. They did win on national TV last Thursday night against the Eagles, so people noticed it. They watched Cam Scatterbo rip his shirt off. They watched Jaxson Dart having fun, doing his dances and things like that, playing quite well. So now this is another step in the development of a rookie quarterback. And, you know, I was there when Eli Manning was a rookie, and he chronicled every game, and it was a bad game and a rough game and a rough game and a bad game, then a little better, then a little better. Then he won. And then he became Eli Manning in 2005, right? So Jaxson Dart, he's 2-1 as a starter, and now he faces his toughest test. You know, he played a road game in New Orleans. He did not play badly, but he fumbled the ball once. He dropped it. He threw 2 interceptions. Both of them have a story. He did not play badly, and he was not, you know, gun shy. He was not wide-eyed, but the Giants didn't win. Okay, so now this is a road start again, his second in a very tough place to play with altitude, as you said. The Broncos are 2-0 at home. They had a long trip. You know, they played well, certainly well defensively against the Jets, but you know they didn't put a stamp on a game. You know, a standalone game Sunday morning in London. So you know, it will be a long week recovering from them. The Giants are coming off you know, a long break after a Thursday game. Let's see. It's always fascinating to watch a rookie quarterback. It's not all on him, and maybe they put the clamps down on his running game. Maybe they have a spy so Jaxson Dart can't run. You know, defenses, the more they see of a rookie quarterback, the more the rookie quarterback has to adjust and adapt and improve and not make the same mistake twice. So along the way of this development is the fact that the Giants have been playing better, and they can make something of their season to 2-4 here. So it's a must-watch game, and they're unpredictable, and that should be embraced because unpredictable is better than same old, same old.
Absolutely, and every one of these guys understand what this game would mean. Every single guy I talked to said that this would be a statement win. They can get the momentum in the Mile High. It would be huge because they're talking about getting a win on the road as well. So you're talking about different milestones to check off throughout the course of a season where no one really gave them a chance. So let's hope that it's the Giants from the Chargers and the Eagles game, not the Giants from the Commanders or the Saints game. Thanks for watching the Blue Rush preview show. Make sure you guys check in with us on game day. I will be doing a live watch party right here in the Post Studios. Hoping to get a special guest in here. Fingers crossed. Don't want to announce it and jinx it right now. Then we'll have the post-game show, the post-game live as well. And then, of course, on Monday, we'll have David Tyree, myself, and Paul break down the game and talk a little wide receiver talk as well. Paul, you told him that we were laughing. I know I'm supposed to be breaking right now, but we were laughing because you were like, no one thought you were going to catch a touchdown or that pass in the Super Bowl, and we just broke out laughing. So at Mondays, we have a great time with DT. For Paul Schwartz, I'm Brandon London. Thanks for watching Blue Rush.